One of the inmates, Hugh, gave you some advice, didn't he, on how to,
Yes.
to cope with your time in there? And what was it he said?
Well, what I can repeat at this time of day basically was to keep your head down, don't play the big man, and don't be a grass, which hopefully I won't be after the show goes out tonight.
This is like the unspoken Bible of survival rules when you get in there.
Wherever prison I've been to, whether it be in the Congo, El Salvador, the United States, or in Barlinnie, there are two rules and two orders. There's the rule and order of the prison officers and the governor, and the unofficial rule of the prisoners. Now, you fall out with the prison officers, you may go to segregation, you may lose your chocolate and your sweets and your TV and your recreation. You fall out with the prisoners and then your life becomes a nightmare. And we try to look at all those things in a 43-minute film.
I know, not enough time. And one of the big things on the show is talking about smuggling contraband into prison, which is big business, and something called banking.
Banking, yes. I mean, how far do we want to go into that?
Well,
somebody banked a knife that long.
And listen, banking is...
I walked in, I had to go into the prison as a prisoner, so I had to strip, and you turn around and then you sit on a plastic commode that kind of looks for metal objects, but it can't detect some unmetal objects. So that's why a lot of the drugs come in that way. But knives, they've picked up knives this big inside people.
Which is incredibly dangerous, obviously.
I would have thought so. Then again, you know, people find all the ingenuity.
Mobile phones?
Mobile phones, very important. You know, buy them on the internet, these small phones, for something like, you know, 25, 30 pounds, can go for 500 pounds inside, because you can bring drugs in. Drugs thrown in with a dog whip. I mean, the accuracy, incredible. Inside that tennis ball could be, you know, 300, 400 street Valium pills going for 5 times what they go for outside on the street.
You were talking about this morning.
So people go to prison on purpose to sell drugs.
When you say they go in, so how are they buying the drugs? Because they presume
with cash, because you have cash sent into you by your families. I mean, Valium underpants soaked in Valium, liquid Valium, dried out, then sent to a prison inmate who then puts boiling water on it and drinks it as tea or sells it. The ingenuity is incredible. Human beings are quite fascinating things, and there's some of the things that we touch on in the documentary.
And a third of inmates, once they're released from prison, have drugs in their system.
So something like, this is a random test that's been going on across Scotland, but I don't see why it'd be any different from any other part of the UK. So around 76% prove positive for illegal drugs on the way in, and a third prove positive for illegal drugs on the way out. And our biggest problem, guys, are these short sentences. So I'm meeting people that have served life sentences, but in 6-month stretches.
Yeah.
So there's no time for rehabilitation.
No.
They just see going to prison as a rite of passage. And we have to change why that's happening. We have to look at why that's happening.
Well, you've got one inmate who committed murder and was sentenced to 12 years. He's still there after 18 years because of the drug issue.
Well, he went in as a person with a drink problem. Marijuana stays in your system for 30 days, so they can add time onto your tariff in those days when he first went in. So he started taking heroin because it clears your system in 3 days. However, when he became a full-blown junkie, it kept showing up all the time. So every time he gets close to release, I think now he's actually on the verge of breaking the licence on purpose because he can't come to terms with actually leaving. And you see a lot of that. A lot of the young people that I spoke to there are on these revolving doors. They were in homes when they were kids. They then go to young offenders' place, and then they end up in Barlinnie.
Well, it's like Robert you met, who's been in and out of prison so many times he'd lost count.
You can remember.
And he hoped that he was, after that stint in Barlinnie, that he was going to turn his life around, and then you heard that he was back inside again. So, OK, then, you've seen this inside view, you've had amazing access. What's the answer? Well,
if only I could answer that, Phillip. I think we have to look at ourselves. We have to look at why we sentence people. What are prisons for? They have to be to keep the bad and the really, truly bad away from us. Keep them away from the rest of society. The people that repeatedly murder or harm people dreadfully. But are they places where we put people that we're angry with or we don't like? Are there alternatives to that? And I'm just the same as anybody else. Do I want someone who I know who's been a burglar, a repeat burglar, working in my house or cutting my lawn, and I have to change my headspace about that and say, look, if I don't do that, if I don't allow him to start doing something legitimate, he'll probably go and do something, wrong. So we have to change the way that we look upon people who have been to prison.
Well,
and that's a hard one, but I think we have to, because £36,000 to keep someone in prison for a year, and that is far more than a young prison officer gets paid.
Yeah.